So right now it's a few days after the first cutting that I did in the last video I took of this, and I'm gonna do this myself. So I took down another main branch, and the remaining two main branches are going to be the hardest ones because they don't, if the branch goes like this, you can cut it pretty that way from the bottom to the top. When the branch is straight up, it's just harder to manipulate that sawzall that I'm using, but I think I can do it, and I've got the tall ladder today. I'm going to show you something that's going on with one of the branches and how really it just can't stay up. Even though I love that tree, I have to cut it down. So let's go take a look at something with what's going to happen here. I did these two yesterday. This one was not that difficult, it's not that big, and the angle was not that bad. This one was pretty hard, and I think that'd be my first practice for having to get to these next two that are really difficult. And you'll see, because it's not going that way, it was almost a straight cut. I had to go across. Of course, I put some angle into it so it would drop, and I was really patient. While I was cutting, I would cut and then stop and observe, and then cut some more. And after a certain point of cutting first from the top and then from the bottom, so the saw blade doesn't get stuck inside by the weight of the branch, it's good to come from both sides little by little. And after a certain point, I heard the snap, the beginning of the snap, and I started to see that big branch on top leaning. So then I backed off again, just wait, make sure it was steady, and then keep cutting until more snapping. And when it did finally go, and this is a sad thing with trees, is that they parts of them can be so healthy and alive. See all that beautiful sap on there? This part of the tree was ready to just keep going. But with the process of this cutting, so I came from this direction, and then I was coming from this direction, and then I finished coming from that direction, and I have removed all these, but there was a bunch of spiky pieces of wood sticking up here, and that would have been where it snapped, and it just couldn't sustain all that weight anymore, and it snapped off. So with all that kind of stuff in mind now, I'm going to tackle these last two big branches. And just seems to be the way things go. You take what you think is going to be easy first, you learn a little bit from that, and then you try to get to the harder ones. The plan right now is, and I did want to show you guys something. See, all these branches are now just smashing into the barn. So actually, the barn is what's keeping that up, because that is not a lot of material holding this big split all the way, and it's really kind of just leaning on the barn. I watched it yesterday when the wind was blowing more, and the whole thing was moving back and forth with the wind, because it's leaning on the barn right now. So that's going to be complicated to get it down safely. But the next one is also tough, but I think won't be quite as hard. It's really big, really tall, and my plan is first take off these two little pieces that are connected to this main branch, and then I'm going to come in from this side and make a V cut into it this way, zzz, zzz, and then come from the other side and cut zzz, into it that way, and let it fall over that way. So we'll see how this goes today. Would love to get both of these done, have it kind of in a stable condition by the end of these couple hours that I have here right now. And then I'm going to head up north to a friend's house, Robin's house, and do some drum jamming, something I like to do from time to time. One blade can only do so much. I want to get the shorter ladder for this. getting all the way around, and now it's just cutting into that center. It's still keeping it up. It's going to happen soon. I just don't want to be in the wrong place when it happens. Maybe it won't be really fast, because it's snapped. I heard it snap. So now is the hardest one is the last one, and it's really going to take a lot of thinking through what to do about it, because it doesn't have a direction to fall. It can't fall into the barn too much. I mean, it's okay if it falls on the barn a little bit, but I mean, the direction of the fall will be right onto the barn, so I can't just cut it down here, because it'll, you know, the whole thing will fall into the barn. I don't really want that to happen. You look up, if I climb all the way up and I cut that one, that one, that one, and just basically everything from this point up, which isn't supporting it right now, all this is really, you know, I mean, look at that. Split clear down to the ground almost. It's just, this is basically, when I was standing up there on it earlier, and my back was against it, I was feeling the whole thing move in the wind, because it's just kind of resting on the barn. It's not really supported very much by its trunk at the bottom. So if I get rid of everything above these right here are the ones that are leaning against the barn. But if I cut everything from there up and let it fall bit by bit down, the only thing is it's standing on the branch up there. I don't have a ladder that tall, and it doesn't really seem very safe to me, so I had to think about it a lot before I tackle this one. Well, I think I've come to a decision about how to handle this last one. Now that I've seen a few tree trunks fall from, you know, where you cut them, I kind of see how they behave. And I believe that if I get this out of the way, just take it away, I can see when the wind is blowing, I can see that this is where it's being supported, right here. So all the stuff above it is basically, you know, hanging on by this. And I get that out of the way, then I can come from this side and here, and I might be able to come from over here a little bit too. And I'm just hoping it'll go like, it'll fall down. And then the question is, I don't know if it'll go left or right. It definitely looks like it'll go that way, which would scrape the side of the barn, but it's not going to hurt it that much. I think that's the best way. There ain't no way I'm going to be climbing all the way to the top, taking off piece by piece by piece with it swaying like this. That just doesn't seem like a good idea. So, you know, cut here, all along there, and there, and then just let the top of it fall that way, scrape across the barn, but it's not going to damage it very much. It's going to be, like I saw the last one, it was, because there's so many nice little branches on the tops of these, it's not going to be violent, fast, or piercing, penetrating, damaging. I really think it's just going to slide over and fall down. At least that's what the last one did, and that's what I hope this one does when I get to it. Peace. Okay, I got that branch on the ground out of the way, and I decided I'm going to go for it. I want to get all this stuff down today so I don't have to think about it being up there, you know, wiggling and maybe falling down on its own. I'm just going to get it done today if I can, and get started right now. I had the thought earlier I'm going to follow through with it, have a rope tied to part of it on the top so that if I need to at a certain time I can pull it in a certain direction. So I'm going to go get the rope and tie that on now. By the way, if you're curious at all about the way that I do ropes, I only use one knot. It's a square knot, and I use a combination of going round and round things and cinching the rope to itself, pulling it tighter, and then tying it off with a square knot. That's the only knot I use. I use it to tie down tarps on top of a trailer going 55 miles an hour down the road. Works fine. But yeah, I would love to use more complicated knots. The problem is I just don't know them. So I use the knot that I know and trust, square knot. Okay, let's take a time out for an older guy pet peeve. I can't stand things that are poorly engineered, especially if they're trying to achieve a safety measure that actually makes it function worse. So this here is your good old gas can, and it has what is supposed to be a safety measure that it won't spill, but look, it does spill. But it shouldn't spill until this gets clicked in and you push with that into your device, your gas tank. Well, it doesn't work. If you do that and you push this in, first of all, it doesn't work very well. And second of all, gas spills from here all over your motor and your tools and everything. So to get around that, to pour this gas tank, I hold this by the hand, push it down in, turn it upside down, and pour it out so it doesn't get all over my hands from that point. It's ridiculous. When they make this stuff, they really need to test it out before selling it to us, don't they? Anyway, at least it worked to store the gas and bring it to me so I could do the job.